I'm just trying to process all of this information here. What?
Are you still on
This,
Akane, or are you still on like Burger Time hot dog?
okay,
I
a
mean,
bit
we
of
can do
both.
both.
Hey, what's going on, you guys, and welcome back to That's a Wrap. My name is the Raptor, and for our special 10th episode extravaganza, we have a very normal episode talking about the most recent episode of Death Battle. But before we get started, let me introduce who we have on the panel today. Returning, for the first time in a while, we have Metal Potato, one of our lovely event managers on the Raptorverse Discord server. Link in the description, by the way, if you want to join. How are you doing, Metal?
I am doing well, and thank you for letting me appear on this That's a Wrap, because I am a big fan of My Hero Academia.
Great, yeah, well, I'm definitely interested in hearing what you have to say about this episode. Next up, also returning, we have Jolt Scene, another one of our event managers. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
I was drinking water, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Make sure to stay hydrated. I probably should have gotten some water for this. I'll be talking for a while, but oh well, you live and you learn. And last but not least, we have Ace, one of our mods, actually one of our newly hired mods. So that's awesome to see. How are you doing, Ace?
Pretty good. I did get water in preparation.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are all smarter than me. Good. Congratulations. But yes, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. This is the podcast that we do on the channel for anyone who doesn't know. Yeah, we've done 10 episodes of this thing, and this is all tied to the Discord server, which again, you can find the link in the description below. We're getting close to like 1,300 members, which is absolutely insane. And yeah, so we're basically just going to be talking about the most recent episode of Death Battle that just came out. Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. Definitely lots to say about this one. I feel like this is one of those episodes that kind of got overshadowed by others just because it was revealed at the same time as like a lot of other episodes, basically, because it was one of the Kickstarter reveals. And this is when we were getting stuff like Bowser versus Eggman, Kratos versus Asura, Simone versus Kyle, which were all revealed to us on like the same day. And I feel like in comparison, this is just one of those episodes that kind of got like brushed to the side by a lot of people. However, that's definitely not really how it turned out in terms of the reception after the episode came out. Does anyone have anything they want to say about just like their initial anticipation for this episode or reaction to seeing it announced?
When I first saw the episode announced on the Kickstarter, I'm like, not preferably the Death Battle matchup that I wanted at first, but like, you know what, I fuck with it, and I was really excited for this.
I really didn't like the matchup when it was first announced.
Oh, okay.
I had a different preferred for Shigaraki that I fully knew was just never going to happen. Gradually, as the episodes come out, I think it's like, alright.
Right. Yeah, it's the kind of thing where, like, I have some matchups where it's like I have a preferred for some characters, but I know that other matchups are much more popular, and it's very unlikely that what I want is going to happen all the time, and I totally understand that. But it is a little disappointing when, like, you finally see it realized, like, ah, shit, like, it really isn't going to happen. But yeah, no, I totally get that. And Jolt, what about you? Did you have any opinions about this going into it?
When I first saw that Shigaraki versus Mahito was going to be one of the confirmed episodes from the Kickstarters, I was like, ooh, really? Around that time, I was like getting into JJK, like my hyperfixation on JJK was like at a massive. I'm like, ooh, it'd be cool to have another JJK character on a Death Battle. And like, I used to be a My Hero Academia fan. I did drop it, but I did read the manga when it finished. But yeah, that just my overall opinion was just like, ooh, that looks fun.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm personally a little more invested in My Hero Academia than Jujutsu Kaisen, but I think especially thanks to Death Battle itself, I have grown a bit of a stronger appreciation for some of the newer series. Well, they're not exactly that new anymore, but like relatively newer series like Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man. So yeah, my hype for it was definitely building up as we were getting closer to the time. Well before, though, I didn't really have any strong opinions about it, but then of course we found out that Moro was going to be animating it, which is like, oh my god, really? Like that's going to be insane. And this episode itself, like animation wise at least, is not as insane as something like Bowser versus Eggman, but at the same time there's just no way it was going to be. It's still a very impressive piece of work in my opinion, and if anything really proves that hand-drawn animation, if you do it right and give it the right tone, can work with so many different matchups. Like we've seen the doctor in hand-drawn style now, and it makes sense that anime characters could work in that style, frankly, because they are, you know, anime characters. You know, they're already kind of in that style, just a very specific version of that style. So, you know, yeah, that's awesome to see. But I guess, yeah, we'll talk about the animation for this episode. Metal, we'll start with you. General thoughts on the animation. Did you like it, not like it? What did you think about what happened in it?
As you said earlier, it was nowhere as near as Bowser vs. Eggman, in my opinion, but it was honestly goddamn top tier. And I just loved when they added the no moves. I was like, are they gonna add the no moves? I'm like, because this is mostly Shigaraki versus Mahito. Then again, Shigaraki has a history of bringing in no moves when he wants to.
Yep.
So like, I just loved when they added that. When Mahito just entered the realm. I forgot what it's called.
Domain expansion?
No, not the domain expansion.
You mean like Shigaraki's like vestige soul realm kind of thing?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to say that thing. We all just see like All For One just sitting there on his throne, goes like, hands off my masterpiece.
Yeah.
Peak cinema right there.
Yeah, there are some really good lines in this episode. The one that I think will stick with me forever is, again, when Mahito is trying to use Shigaraki's insecurities and past against him, and then it completely backfires, and he's like, you grow up. Like, that's the one that's going to stick with me for a very long time. There's definitely some great dialogue in this episode, for sure. Great character portrayals in general. And, yeah, the Nomus are a great point, because usually when we had, like, hand-drawn episodes in the past, I'd be a little disappointed only for the fact that I would think to myself, it probably means that they can't go super extravagant with it. Like, I think back to Steven versus Star, where they were saying, oh yeah, we didn't make it hand-drawn because we wanted to, you know, include more things in it. So that's kind of like where I get that reasoning from. But especially after Bowser versus Eggman, and now this episode, it's like, it doesn't seem like them doing it in a hand-drawn style is actually limiting anymore. Like, they can still put a shit ton of stuff in the episode, and they can still do it really, really well. So, yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
I think the difference between the hand-drawn and Bowser versus Eggman and Shigaraki versus Mahito is that Bowser, Eggman, and Mahito Shigaraki aren't, like, frame-by-frame hand-drawn. They're, like, more so puppet rigged kind of thing.
No, yeah, that's definitely a fair point.
I really liked how the like general scale stayed a lot more grounded than you would expect from the two of them. I think that the like dimly lit subway station was a really cool environment to set the fight in.
Yeah, definitely added to the tone, added to, you know, kind of keeping the grounded nature of like what you're watching. I'm really not into body horror personally. I don't know if anyone here is, but like that's really
I like it.
You like it? Okay, great. Yeah, for me, it's just not my thing. Like, my brother has seen at least one of the Saw movies, and I have no idea how he did that. Yeah, for me, like, it's just really not my thing. And anyone who saw my reaction video will know that just, like, it's just not my thing. But that being said, I recognize that it is a part of the characters. It's not something that you can shy away from for this. And I do think it was still used as, like, effectively as it could have been. There were things like, you know, the transformations throughout the fight, the special moves, and the imagery, again, especially with, like, the vestige realm stuff and the domain expansion. Like, all of that, I think, worked really well into the flow of the animation, the escalation of the animation. I think it all worked really well together.
I will say that I do love I like geeked out when I saw the Sukuna reference and the Nobara reference.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That's definitely going to be applicable to anyone who really knows the characters. And it's a good thing that Death Battle does that, where they essentially make it so that anyone who's like really invested in the matchup, or anyone who really knows these series well, can get a little more out of it than everybody else. I think that's always a nice touch when they do things like that.
Yeah, seeing how creative they went with the animation, I'm like, yeah, this matchup, they did this matchup perfectly. Because I also realized, I'm like, oh, like Shigaraki is like similar to Yugi, where there's like another soul within them, and then that other soul is also kind of just not reasoning, just became part of the death.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. It's very interesting how like you can kind of like make equivalencies like that.
Nomus were cool. I was expecting like stuff like Nomu and the idol transfiguration, like monsters Mahito can make, even though he didn't really make them, but it was still like, that was still cool.
I like how they were very invested in this matchup with the animation. I thought it was gonna be like Sprite. I was like, you know what, Sprite is probably the best. But like when you see this work, like goddamn.
Yeah, it's clear they put a lot of passion into this. They really tried to make it the best they could, like make it the most representative of this matchup through the presentation and through the animation, which is absolutely great to see. There are so many cool moments that pay so much tribute to like what these characters are all about, like the All for One vestige and, you know, decaying the domain expansion. I thought that was a very cool moment. And again, you know, the whole ending bit where Mahito is running away. Again, all of it just feels very appropriate for the characters. I'm gonna try to come up with some complaints just so I'm not complimenting the episode all the time, because then it's not really like a true review. I do think we saw enough of Shigaraki's quirks, because he has a lot of them, and, you know, they tried to throw enough in wherever they could. I do think, though, and this kind of alludes to what Jolt said earlier, I would have liked to see more of Mahito using idol transfiguration on actual civilians. And considering that we start, like the whole animation starts with like a shot of so many civilians in the subway, I'm almost curious if there was like a draft of this episode where that did happen. Because it's kind of weird how you start with civilians, but then you kind of think like, oh yeah, that means a Mahito will use idol transfiguration on them, and then he kind of just doesn't. So I don't know, that's just kind of something that was in the back of my head as I was watching it. But it's always easy to say that there could have been more in an animation, because you can't fit everything. Theoretically, you could have so many more things that Shigaraki was doing just with the sheer amount of quirks. I think all of the basic boxes were checked off, but I guess if there's just one thing I would have added or tried to add, it would have been that.
I really liked the voice acting for the episode too.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the line reads in general, like when Mahito said, "Did you really just say that?" Or whatever the line was, I thought that was really fucking funny.
Yeah, and Tom Shock, you know, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he is such a versatile voice actor, man. Like, if you look at just exactly who he has played, you would not be able to imagine, like, all those voices coming out of one person. And the fact that he can not only do those imitations, but also do them in a realistic way, like, to me, that's insane. They get so much talent for this show, and it really shows in the final product.
Like, how have you been, SpongeBob, the Kool-Aid Man, Omni-Man, and Shigaraki?
Yeah,
Wait,
and more. He was Megatron, too.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, no, that's all the same
yeah.
guy. That's literally all the same guy.
Holy shit! I thought...
He also voiced acted this guy of making my PFP right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one I just made my PFP.
I see.
From
Voice
the
act-
Amazing Digital Circus.
That's great. Okay, so I think that pretty well covers the animation. Looks like we all enjoyed it quite a lot. But now let's talk about the other half of Death Battle, which is the analyses and the writing. So this involves, you know, anything that was in the analyses, anything about how it was written, the way it was written, how they analyzed the characters.
I love how they call Mahito like a bitch.
I love how that's your
That was
first
funny.
one. That's like the first thing you need to say about the analyses. Just like, yeah, I like they called Mahito a bitch.
He was. I'm gonna say that. This is what I said earlier about the animation. I just love how they put a lot of heart and dedication to the episode, because you can really tell, like, they were really invested in this one Death Battle matchup right here.
Mhm.
With all these styles and changes, spending time to figure out, like, hey, is this a possibility? Can this happen? Or we need to consider these.
Yep.
It's like, I'm glad they thought about all of that throughout the entire episode.
Right, because there is a lot of interpretational stuff in this matchup. A lot of questions about how do these characters interact with each other, how do things play off of each other, and yeah, they definitely tried to make sure that, you know, no stone was unturned. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this when we get to the conclusion section of this review. But yeah, like they really tried to go in depth with like what these characters are about, how their powers work, where they came from, you know, just all the necessary context for somebody who knows the characters well, but also somebody who doesn't know the characters as well. Which I definitely appreciated whenever they can do things like that.
I thought both were excellent, but Shigaraki's especially is just, like, now one of my all-time favorites.
I would
that they've ever
agree. I
done.
think Shigaraki's is a little better, but I do really, really like both.
Shigaraki is, like, one of my all-time favorite villains in fiction,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, seeing them cover his backstory and the whole, like, power set vestige stuff, and then, like, the conclusion as to how he's, like, a parallel to Deku, I thought was really, really well written.
Very nice writing with that. And I personally love it when Death Battle talks a lot about the characters' struggles and their development, because you can't always scale all of that stuff, but frankly, to me, that doesn't matter, because Death Battle is not just about figuring out who would win in a fight, it's a celebration of these characters and what they've gone through and all of that. And I do think that applies more to Shigaraki than it does to Mahito. But I still think, both were handled well. They kind of used Mahito's analysis as like an excuse to talk more about JJK lore and all about that, whereas with Shigaraki, we've seen My Hero Academia on the show enough times to like really focus on his character specifically, and I think they did that really well. And of course, if you guys know me, you'll know I really latch on to like the experiment style characters, so I definitely appreciate that they went over that kind of stuff for Shigaraki, for sure.
I think both of the reanalysis were like really good and very heavily on character. And basically what you all said, I like how they treat these characters like they're way deeper in writing than what you usually would think. Like how at the end of Shigaraki's ending, they'll be like, but at the end, he finally got what he wanted, a hero to finally save him. And then with Mahito, even though like they talked about how he was pretty much getting his butt kicked and how like his life was about to end, he learned how to like how scared he was of dying. Mm-hmm. And but like even then, he still won. He technically did win against Yugi in terms of like the mental battle, because he just destroyed Yuji's mental state.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff that really shows like how much they understand the characters, or how much the researchers understand the characters, and how they can communicate that to the writers. That shows that the process really is airtight, and that they really want to put enough spotlight on those aspects of the characters. I personally also want to say that I think the editing was really on point, as it tends to always be in these episodes these days. To me, it's very much like Ghost Rider versus Spawn, where it's like they show clips of like cartoons or whatever, but then when it comes to like a comic panel, or in this case a manga panel, they really go that extra distance to make sure that it's visually entertaining to look at. A lot of cool edits there. The only possible negative that I would accompany with that is just the idea that as I'm trying to watch the death battle, specifically as I'm trying to react to it, and I'm thinking about a ton of different things at once, sometimes I do find the edits to be a little quick. They're definitely quicker in their editing than they used to be, and sometimes trying to absorb all the visual information is a little difficult, but I can't imagine that like a lot of other people really notice that much. For me, I'm just trying to like pay as close attention as I possibly can, and sometimes I just find the editing to be a little quick, but that's not really a huge negative in the grand scheme of things. They still put a lot of effort into their edits, which is amazing, and they made sure to not make anything too rushed, because these are slightly longer analysis segments than usual, so they didn't want to cut any corners. They didn't want to brush over anything that they felt couldn't get brushed over. So just a lot of things that really make you appreciate the process of this episode, in my opinion.
I like how basically the full analysis is basically just a celebration of the characters and going deep into their story, not just basically how it used to be, where it's just, oh look, this is what they can do and this is what they can survive. Mm-hmm. Like they actually go into depth of what they represent, all that.
I think it was a little disappointing that unlike in Hulk versus Doomsday, they didn't calc how hard Tenko's dad beat him.
Oh my god.
That, I think would have been a nice inclusion.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna give some props to the JJK aspect. I know I'm a big My Hero Academia fan, but I did really love the entire analysis for and the showing of how they implemented a little bit of JJK lore, as well as going in depth into Mahito's character.
I do think Shigaraki's analysis section was a little better than Mahito's. I also think it was a little better paced, or at least it kind of was paced in a way that I prefer, where it's like they were kind of going back and forth between, this is what Shigaraki is about, this is some of the stuff he can do, this is more about what his character's about, here's some more about what he can do, and they kind of like went back and forth. Whereas with Mahito, they kind of like started by giving some context for him, and then you have like his capabilities for like, I want to say like 3 or 4 solid minutes of like just capabilities, and then you kind of go back to like JJK lore kind of stuff. So I guess I just kind of prefer the way they structured Shigaraki's analysis, where they kind of go like back and forth. I find it more interesting to watch and to listen to, but I'm sure they just did it in the way that they felt made the most sense, because to be fair, a lot of Mahito's abilities are very like closely tied together, whereas with Shigaraki you can say like, this is his normal stuff and this is the stuff that he got with All for One. So it does kind of make sense the way that they structured each character's analyses. I do think I like Shigaraki's a little more, but both were very well written and very well paced.
Another aspect of that is that, like, Mahito is just inherently a less complex character than Shigaraki.
That's
like,
fair.
People, before the episode came out, always used to make the joke of, like, Shigaraki lamenting to the League of Villains about his past trauma, and then Mahito's just like, Jogo hit the second tower.
Oh, God.
What the fuck?
I thought the jokes were decent, you know, just very average death battle humor, but I feel like that's not really the main appeal of the writing in this case. I think it really is about, you know, shedding light on the nuance of these characters, and I do think they did that well. The characters, like, in terms of the way they were analyzed, I think they were analyzed in very respectable ways. They brought up basically everything I was expecting them to bring up. And, you know, with the stats and the scaling for these characters, it's really not that difficult. The more complicated stuff is definitely with, like, how their specific powers work. But they did provide a lot of context for, like, their interpretations of how their abilities work, in my opinion. And with that said, let's talk about the actual outcome and conclusion. So specifically, their reasoning. Do you agree with the outcome in general? Do you like it? Do you not like it? You know, all of that stuff. Jolt, we'll start with you for this time. I don't know if you have a strong opinion about this, but do you agree or disagree with the outcome, and why or why not? Do you like their reasoning? All that stuff.
If you know both My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen, like, you don't even have to be a professional versus debater. Everyone knows Shigaraki was going to kill Mahito.
I feel like Shigaraki's almost, like, specifically designed to counter Mahito with, like, his vestiges, decay, danger sense, shit like that.
I do like how in the post-analysis they, like, make it sound like it's still close and it's still a complicated matchup to piece together, but, like, you know, if you just look at it in a more deeper lens, like, you know, it's like, yeah, it's not really that close.
Well,
like, Shigaraki has counters to basically everything Mahito does.
Well, see,
not to mention the stat gap. Sorry, you could go.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I shouldn't have cut you off so quickly. I will disagree with that just a little bit, just in the sense that, yes, I do think that, especially the way that Death Battle analyzed it, there's really no contest, because, yes, the stats are ridiculously far apart from each other, and the way that Shigaraki is just built as a fighter is, yeah, like what Ace said, is kind of just a way to counter a lot of what Mahito has, if not literally everything. As I was doing research for this episode, I did find that despite all of those facts, like, Mahito arguably had, like, a more clear win con, because a lot of what Shigaraki has that could potentially kill Mahito, while believable and while I think he can kill Mahito, a lot of that does sometimes come from interpretational things. Like, if you interpret everything in a specific way, you could just interpret it in a way that's like, oh, well, then Shigaraki can't kill Mahito. If you say that vestiges aren't close enough to souls, and if you say that he can't harm him physically at all, whereas Mahito's win con does not require any interpretation whatsoever. So I will say that's the one part where I will disagree, that some people looking at it at face value, if they interpret it in a specific way, might be like, well, hang on, like, can Shigaraki even kill Mahito, whereas Mahito could just hit him with this? But I do think that Death Battle did interpret things in very respectable ways, and in that interpretation, yes, it's not really a contest.
Yeah, and they also acknowledged basically what you said too.
Oh yeah, they made sure to acknowledge all those questions. That's definitely a big plus for this conclusion, that not only did they try to go over, like leave no stone unturned, try to go over everything they could have for how these characters play off of each other, but also just within their own internal logic, their own internal reasoning. I think they were really thorough, and that's a good thing to bring up, because there are some episodes where even within their own internal logic, sometimes I feel like, okay, well, maybe they could have talked about this a little longer. Maybe they shouldn't have just put this in a black box. But frankly, I think what was said out loud in the script was actually very, very well done. I think they made sure to include everything that people might have been questioning about. Even if people don't agree with their interpretation, they made sure to explain why they feel that way very, very well. So I definitely appreciate that.
Well, yeah, obviously I do agree that Shigaraki wins, but I do like how they very categorically broke it down and explained, like, how almost each individual ability of Shigaraki's could interact with Mahito.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the initial disclaimer of, like, vestiges are close enough to cursed spirits, he can see them.
Yeah, well, it's more like vestiges are close enough to souls. You know, I personally wouldn't say that vestiges are literally souls, because I do believe we have seen, like, a distinction between, like, a literal soul. Like, a vestige is almost like a part of your soul. That's kind of more how I've interpreted it. But they are still close enough, like, they still exist on that plane. So it's like, you would think that, like, that spiritual plane, to think, like, well, if Shigaraki can interact with them, then you'd think he'd be able to affect Mahito's soul as well.
In the stats category, yeah, it was no contest. Let's be honest. Survivability, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little debated on that one. Because, like, I like how they explain, like, yeah, giving Mahito the edge on that one, because bullshit. But he is a curse and can basically be revived from any physical damage. I was like, yeah, that's fair to say.
Well, I can understand kind of having, you know, some questions about that one specifically, because yes, Mahito is a curse. Yes, you know, he can't really take physical damage from something that's not cursed energy and all that. Yes, like, from that perspective, he should take survivability. However, Shigaraki is technically more durable against things that, you know, physical things that can hurt him versus physical things that can potentially hurt Mahito. But not only that, but, like, you'd think that, yes, even if Mahito gets survivability, it doesn't really matter if Shigaraki has a very easy way of killing him. Like, yes, if you compare his survivability to Shigaraki's survivability, by nature of being a curse, you would be like, okay, yes, he has higher survivability. But compared to each other, where realistically both of them, well, you might not even say that Mahito could kill Shigaraki, depending on, again, how you look at the vestiges, but even if both of them could kill each other in, like, one hit, then you'd be like, well, then, for all intents and purposes, they have equal survivability against each other.
Exactly, yeah. And also, we've seen Shigaraki's soul or vestige being hurt and damaged within the realm before, even surviving a lot of crazy shit, like how against Stars and Stripes.
And yeah, also Mahito has... We know Mahito can't regenerate his soul, but we have seen him survive damage to it before as well. So, yeah, I can see from that perspective, you might want to be like, well, then, you know, they can survive similar things. At least on a spiritual level, they're tied in survivability. But on a physical level, again, if you're just looking at the characters separately from each other, I do think it's fair to give Mahito the survivability edge, but when you're looking at them versus each other, then it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not really an advantage, because it doesn't help.
And then in the last one, power. Well, obviously Shigaraki. And then sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, I like how they explain, like, vegetables are kind of like part of a soul, not really the soul, but it's a part of a soul, and that really matters, because if you know decay will, as long as there's something attached, it's gonna decay everything.
Yeah, and again, him using decay on vestiges specifically kind of reinforces that idea, that, yeah, like, it's not only going to take apart your body, it's also going to get at your soul as well, or get to something on that spiritual plane. So yeah, again, a lot of interpretational things here, and that's why I kind of don't believe people when they're like, oh, this was as much of a stomp as Omni-Man versus Homelander, because, again, in the way that they interpreted it by the end of the episode, sure, I could see that argument being made, but there was no interpretation where Homelander could beat Omni-Man. Whereas in here, there are some questions where, theoretically, it could give Mahito a better chance. So that's why I still found the debate interesting, just to see what Death Battle would say about it. But yes, by the end of it, I do think they came to very reasonable interpretations, very similar interpretations to what I came to. It just makes the most sense to me. And again, especially with the fact that we saw him decay or harm Deku's vestige and have that damage reflected to him on the real world. I think at that point it's like, okay, so yeah, the body and the soul are very closely tied in the My Hero Academia world, like close enough to really seal the deal on, like, yes, Shigaraki could kill Mahito, and if he can kill him, then he will win. because he's better in everything else. And kind of going back to what I was saying before about, like, again, them making sure to verbally say everything that they thought was important, I think the black boxes, you know, in the top right corner were used very effectively in this episode, because a lot of them were basically going over either feats that Mahito could potentially scale to, not like super concretely, but like potentially, and then saying, you know, that, well, Shigaraki would still outstat all of that stuff. They would either talk about that, or they would talk about more attack and defense options that Shigaraki has. You know, if you're really interested in going more in specifics about like how quirks would work against, like the specific quirks, how they would work against, you know, a cursed spirit and all of that. So I think the black boxes were used very effectively, as opposed to something like Omni-Man versus Bardock, where I do think there are some things they put in the black boxes that would have been very beneficial to them if they had said it out loud. But I've already talked about that in a different episode. But yeah, I think just generally the writing was really on point, just for what they decided to verbally say and what they thought was kind of like supplementary material. I thought those decisions were really well made this time around. Now, in terms of like just the miscellaneous stuff, anything else you want to bring up? Does anyone have any strong opinions about the track, per se, Skin Deep?
Oh yeah, I did have some stuff in my notes on the track.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good, but I think like the mixing's kind of off. The vocals are a lot quieter than the instrumental.
The track name should have been Touching Me, Touching You.
I don't know if
That's all I have.
I don't know.
I'm gonna touch you.
I don't know if we needed that. Jolt, what about you? Did you have anything about the track?
What I like about the track in the animation was that, like, one part where Mahito black flashes Shigaraki in the face. Like, I think that was a good sync.
Yeah, that's always important, how it kind of like plays into the animation, which I do think some tracks could take like better advantage of, actually. So that's good that you noticed that. That's a good thing, I think, yeah, for them to try to implement more often.
But overall, I think it's like second best My Hero Academia song. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I think it's above Stronger Alive, but definitely below Mighty.
I would disagree with the Strongest Alive very strongly, but that's just me. I really love that track. I think
Strongest Alive is pretty good, but it's a little like too much of the same.
I think it's all right. I think it's definitely nice to see Brandon Yates and Thairwolf collab. Like that's very nice to see, you know, them work together on this. For me, it's just not my favorite. I think some tracks are like acquired tastes for me, though. Like sometimes I kind of need to listen to it a few times before I really start to like it. Like one of the best examples I can think of right now is like Princes of Pride. I definitely needed to listen to that a few times before I really got like hooked on it. Maybe this is one of those cases, but I could also just see this being one of the cases where I just don't like it as much as some of the other tracks that came before and after, but I still appreciate it for what it does well. I do think, yes, the vocals could have been a bit louder, but I guess just for the fact that it's in Japanese, they didn't really feel the need that people needed to hear exactly what they were saying anyway. I don't know. Still a well-made track.
It is cool that Brandon did all of the vocals in Japanese.
Yeah, that's mad respect for that, for sure. And also, what the hell is going on with this, with everyone simping for that girl?
I knew.
Yeah.
I figured that was going to come into conversation.
What the hell is up with that?
Wait, what happened? Wait, what?
The girl that died in the very, very beginning.
Wait, is everyone simping over that fucking girl?
Yes!
Yep.
I've seen on Twitter that they headcanon that she had a quirk that reattaches her body if she were to explode or something.
Like what? I don't understand. Like, I seriously do not get it. Like, why is this the fixation? And I know everyone's just gonna be like, oh, because she's hot, because everyone's horny, and it's like everyone is making fan art of her instead of like the literal characters in the animation. Like, why is this what you default to? Like the Bowser Jr. and Sage stuff I found a little weird, but at least like that was still more relevant to the episode itself. Like when people were like, there was a big craze about that when Bowser versus Eggman came out. This to me is just completely nonsensical. I don't get it.
This is the reason why I don't stick around communities or fandoms in the aftermath. I like to just book it on my own because I know weird shit's gonna happen, and it's just absurd.
I feel like I should follow in your footsteps because I'm kind of jealous that you didn't know about this up until now. I don't know what's going on with this girl. To anyone who's like making fan art or whatever, I guess you do you. You know, good for you that you have a hobby. I prefer to actually get bitches, but that's just me. You do you.
Go touch grass, okay? Go touch some grass.
lore now.
Yeah, like again, like why is this the fixation?
Go fucking grass. Stop sipping over this.
I'm gonna do this after we're done here.
I'm definitely putting her in the thumbnail, by the way, because I guarantee it's gonna get more
Oh,
clicks.
hell yeah.
Like, unironically, I think it's actually going to make more people click on it than otherwise. And that's the sad part, but, like, I genuinely think that's true. But yeah, anything else I can bring up about this episode? I do think it is nice that that everyone has kind of collectively agreed that this is a very well-made episode, because I do sometimes find that some of the anime episodes get held to like a bit of a higher standard than other episodes. Like sometimes I feel like some of them get a little too much hate. And sure, for this one, it's probably just because of the animation, even though I think there's a lot of other good stuff in there, like the way the analyses are written. But for whatever reason it is, I am happy that this isn't just another anime episode that people are like, oh, it sucked. So I'm really happy to see that. But anyway, I think now that we've gone over all of that, we can give some very brief thoughts on the next time. Eren Yeager versus I'm sorry, Master Chief versus Doomslayer is the next one. Are you guys excited for that?
Can I give
Yeah,
my
I'm
thoughts?
excited for Ken Eren.
I know before the show we were talking about potential like April Fool's stuff for That's a Wrap, but that was kind of like my April Fool's thing for the channel. Like an early April Fool's, like, wait, did Raptor just leak the next time? So that was kind of the point of that video.
I'm gonna be honest, you kind of actually scared me because of
You also scared.
because the episode did get leaked, and then that's why they had to push it.
I didn't
to
even
Saturday.
that wasn't even my plan. I was gonna do that no matter what. But when I found that the episode apparently got leaked for a little bit, it's like, oh, okay, maybe this could actually work even better than I expected. The whole point of that was just to kind of like instill a hint of doubt. Like, well, hang on, Raptor wouldn't do this, but like, what if he did? Like, it was just supposed to do that. That's all it was supposed to do, not, like, legitimately fool people. Although, some of the comments, it sounds like I did legitimately fool some people, which is really funny. But, yeah, that was the whole point of that, just to do that trailer.
We already know the actual next time. But what if it was Kaneki versus Eren Yeager? The reason why I decided to do Eren versus Ken was because I specifically thought they wouldn't have done 2 anime versus anime episodes in a row. They usually don't do that. The one time I can think of recently where they did do that was Deku versus Asta to Gogeta versus Vegito, but that one was already kind of a weird instance. So I was pretty confident it wouldn't be the next time, which is why I chose it. If it did end up being the next time, though, I probably would have made a formal apology, because even if I didn't try to spoil people, the fact of the matter is I would have spoiled people indirectly. Like, I would have told them the next time was Eren versus Ken, and then the next time was Eren versus Ken. Like, it doesn't matter what my intention was, they would have gotten spoiled. So I probably would have had to make a formal apology or something, because I would have felt really bad.
Imagine the episode after Chief Slayer is Ken Eren.
I would love that, but that would be awesome. We'll see about that.
I'm pretty sure Aang Traveler is just the confirmed next time after that.
I don't think it is.
No, I wouldn't say it is necessarily, because we have Ash versus Yugi as episode 200, and presumably presumably Aang versus Traveler is the only Kickstarter one that's going to be between now and that one, and Chief Slayer is episode 195. So my guess is that Aang versus Traveler is either going to be like 197, 198, and I think Wile versus Tom is also probably going to be around that range. But I don't think Aang versus Traveler is next. But it'll come soon. It'll come within like the next few months.
Now the actual next time.
Yes,
here.
the actual one.
My heart, Master Chief. No, they're gonna kill my boy.
I take it, Metal, you're not super happy with this one?
I'm not happy with this.
Was there a rematch option that you would have preferred more? Because we knew we were getting a rematch from the Kickstarter. Was there one you would have preferred more?
Yeah, Shadow Music versus Mewtwo. Like
how you
had.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I was so depressed when Shadow versus Mewtwo came out and it was bad.
I love the matchup too. Again, the whole like animal like experiments thing. Like to me, it's the Edgelord Stitch versus Rocket. So like I gotta love it. The episode is not good. I would have preferred it to have won the rematch poll immensely. I did not expect it to win. I thought Chief Slayer was going to win, but that's always the one I'll be rooting for as far as potential rematches go. And Chief Slayer, that was actually one of my top picks for winning the rematch poll, but now that it's come closer, yeah, I'm with Metal. Like, this isn't really what I wanted to see. I and I've talked about this enough in my prediction video, but to me, like, this isn't really what a rematch should try to do. Like, the whole point of this is essentially to reverse the outcome of the original and update the characters, because, you know, Doomslayer has changed so much since his first episode. But as I said in my prediction video, to me, that's not what a rematch is for, because you can put Doomslayer in a completely new matchup and you can get the updated information that way. For me, a rematch should be more specific to, like, Death Battle trying to fix its own previous mistakes, and that's what Mario vs. Sonic 2 was trying to do. That's what Link vs. Cloud 2 was trying to do. So to me, in concept, those are much more appropriate for a rematch. If all you want is updated information, you don't need a rematch, especially not one like this, like where it's so obvious and everyone's already talked about it so much. Just put Doomslayer in another matchup. Am I completely off the mark? Like, do people agree or disagree with that?
I get your mindset. Yeah, I agree with it. I'm personally a Master Chief Samus kind of guy. That's just my little thing. I rarely play Doom, but like I played few Halo and few Metroid, so I'm more familiar with that. And when I compare the two characters, yeah.
I think that, like, this was probably just their best pick. Most of Doomslayer's opponents have either already been on the show or are very, very niche.
Okay.
So, and, like, this has been a big thing for a while. It was my personal favorite on the pull to win, but, like, the one that I personally thought would have been the coolest rematch is Peach versus Zelda.
Okay.
Like, they've gotten a lot of shit recently that makes the dynamic, like, way, way cooler than it was back then.
Okay, I can definitely respect that, yeah. I don't really care that much about that matchup, but for all the new material, I think that could have been cool. Again, for me, I just think as far as rectifying past mistakes go, I think that just fits the best with Shadow versus Mewtwo, because I can't really think of many aspects of that episode that I would say are even, like, okay. Like, most of them I just think are flat out shit. But even still, like, I totally respect that. And yes, I do understand the idea that, well, who do you put Doomslayer against if not Master Chief? But I don't know. Like, Death Battle has pulled out wild cards before. I guess I was just hoping that something like that would have happened instead of a rematch. But again, this is what we voted for. This is what we're getting. I have to respect the process. It's just, to me, it's not my perfect timeline, but I'm really happy for anyone who this is their perfect timeline, you know? So I get it.
The only concern I have is that, like, it seems a little bit too soon after it was first announced. I have a feeling that the animation might be a little rushed. Unless it was, like, really ahead.
I was thinking that too. Okay. I was thinking, if anything, Wile versus Tom was going to come out before this one, because at least we knew of that episode's existence for, like, well over a year at this point. I know that Luis wasn't working on it the entire time, but I kind of figured that, if anything, that one was going to come out first, but clearly not. And some of the more recent 3D episodes have not been seen as favorably compared to the 2D episodes or the hand-drawn episodes. So I was kind of hoping that this episode would kind of, like, you know, change that a little bit. And because it's, you know, the winner of a rematch poll, I'd like to think that they would make sure to give this episode enough time to be really good. But I do have to admit that the very quick time frame between when they knew this was going to be made and now to when it's coming out, I'm a little concerned, unless they had a really strong feeling that this one was going to win and they were already working on it, like, a long time earlier. But that seems kind of weird to me, because they don't know that for sure. So I'm hopeful, but I am also a little cautious.
They said that they knew it was winning in a landslide, so I do feel like they sort of did do, like, a preemptive, more likely than not.
Yeah, possibly, but again, you know, how much time did they really have for it? Because, like, how long was the poll even out for? Like, it wasn't that long. Either way, whatever, it's coming out now. We'll see how it goes. I still hope for a very good production. I do not think there was any stock to put in the debate, or, again, you know, it'll be nice to see Doomslayer updated. It'll be nice to see Master Chief updated. I feel like we didn't need a rematch for that, but it'll be nice to see that. It'll be nice to see a hopefully very kick-ass fight. So there's still good things to look forward to. I do have my issues with it, but it's what we're getting. I can accept it.
If Doom guy doesn't teabag Master Chief, I'm gonna go recreate that Doom poster over at Death Battle headquarters.
I mean, I could actually see it, because they've referenced past episodes before in, like, lines of dialogue and some animation bits. So, like, honestly, I could see it, but we'll see what happens. You know, Master Chief on the original 2-season pitch that Ben Singer made for Death Battle before it even started, his original opponent was Duke Nukem, not Doomslayer or Samus or anyone else.
That old pitch had so many weird episodes on it. Like,
Yep.
Han Solo versus Indiana Jones and Aang versus Harry Potter.
I don't recall.
Fucking Carnage versus Green Lantern.
Oh, some of those we might not be talking about the same thing completely, or maybe the image that I have of the pitch
think we
is.
are.
No, but I just remember everything that was on the pitch, and I don't recall like Carnage versus Green Lantern or Han Solo versus Indiana Jones. Maybe I have an incomplete list. That's interesting. I do remember Aang versus Harry Potter, though, and like Mega Man versus Bomberman. I think that one was there. Goomba versus Burger Time Hot Dog. That one was also there. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Instead of Goomba versus Koopa, it was Goomba versus the Burger Time Hot Dog.
Okay, we're gonna have a long chat about that one right after the podcast.
Okay, I think with that said, I think we're good to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. I appreciate it immensely. I think we all had some really great things to say. Anyone listening, thank you so much for listening. If you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to subscribe, because we do this podcast style thing for every episode of Death Battle that comes out. And there's also other stuff on the channel if you want to check it out. Like, comment, do all that stuff. Anyone have any final words?
This was actually the worst experience of my entire life. I severely regret being here.
Perfect. That was the point. Yeah.
Nintendo, why are you making your games up to $90? Why?
Oh, no, drop that.
Metal, I also want to point out that the quote-unquote Death Battle baddie has some Rule 34.
Wait, she did? I checked last night and I didn't see anything.
What the fuck?
Okay, it's labeled under Rule 34, but I don't think it's like actual porn.
I haven't looked at it.
You know what? I'm changing my last words. Go touch some grass, everyone. Good night.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you in the next time. That is a wrap.